I would like to call this, let's call this Board of Assessment Review hearing to order. May we have a roll call, Tracy?
Mr. Cloutier?
Here.
Mr. Sanctus?
Here.
Ms. Torrens?
Here.
Mr. Chamberlain?
Here.
Mr. Herrick?
Here.
Mr. Parkinson?
Here.
Mr. Peoples?
Here. We have a full house. Will we start with a pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, give us that one. All right. We have approval of the minutes from April 30th, Board of Assessment Review. I know you all have those. I need someone to make a motion to
I
accept.
make a motion, we approve the minutes as submitted.
All right.
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. Any discussion on those minutes? Since I wasn't here. Chris, you were chairing there?
Yes.
All right. Any? None? All right. Well, all in favor? All right. None opposed? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, which brings us to this appeal of the Scarborough Terraces, 600 Commerce Drive. Before we do that, I do need to, let's see, swear in any parties who plan on giving testimony here. So, Dave and Nick. Nick.
Yep.
We got two Nicks here too, so I remember that. Thank you. Do we have the language for the swearing in, Derwood?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, or nothing but the truth?
Raise your hand, please. You want to say that
Do you
again?
swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the best of, so if you've got,
Yes. I do.
you
All
say, swear,
Or
affirm, for people who don't want to swear.
But they all swore, right? All right. Very good. Thank you very much. All right, so we take care of that. So we're here to, for the application for assessment review by Scarborough Terrace, 600 Commerce Drive. And probably, unless you want to add anything, Derek, Derwood, we can probably start right
No, go ahead.
in with the town. It goes first in this case. David or Dave, whoever is going to, whoever.
Thank you, Mr. Peoples. Board, we're here just to go over a abatement request by Scarborough Terrace. I would ask at this time that the assessor sort of introduce you to the property. You have as the assessor's exhibit number 5, a tax card prepared by the town of Scarborough. If you want to walk them through sort of what they're looking at there.
Just to kind of highlight the property, obviously it consists of land and buildings. The land contains roughly 15 and a half acres. We have an assessment on that of $916,700. And you all know where that is, Commerce Drive. The building is a two-story building built around 1995. Contains 51,054 square feet and includes 60 living units for assisted living. We have building. We have a total assessment currently of $8,649,800. And as I said, the land is $916,700. So those are the highlights.
Is that consistent with other living facilities that you've seen assessed?
It is. As I said, there's 60 units. I've looked at other assisted living units, and 60 to 80 units is pretty typical for this type of property in southern Maine.
And as far as the assessment goes, I understand there was a revaluation of the commercial properties in 2018. Was that the original assessment of this property?
Prior to the revaluation in 2018, the assessed value for Scarborough Terrace was, you can see right there on the property card, under previous assessments history. The previous assessment was $3,746,600. And that was reassessed, hold on a second. It was reassessed, excuse me, it was reassessed from $9,691,400. And then Scarborough Terrace applied for an abatement. After consideration, I reduced the assessment to $8,649,800. So roughly just over $1 million reduction.
And so this year they applied for an abatement again?
They did. We'll turn to tab number 4. You'll see my denial letter. I denied the abatement request, and that was the result in part of a comparison I did, which is Exhibit 11, the very last exhibit. I looked at 4 other similar assisted living facilities in southern Maine. One here in Scarborough, 2 in Saco, and 1 in Gorham. And I was mainly interested in seeing what, well, first of all, I was looking at their assessed values. And I was interested in seeing what they were assessed at in terms of dollars per unit and dollars per square foot. And you see my analysis there, or comparison. It's not really an analysis, but it's a comparison. The average dollars per unit was about $169,500, and Scarborough, in comparison, Scarborough Terrace is at $144,000. The value, the assessment per square foot of the 4 facilities I looked at was $170 a square foot. Scarborough Terrace is at $169. So what this showed me was that there's a pretty good range where these types of facilities fall in terms of the dollars per square foot and dollars per unit.
So when Scarborough Terrace applied for the abatement, did they attach or provide any documentation for your review in substantiation of their request?
They included this analysis booklet, assessment analysis. The booklet includes analysis and a value conclusion, which technically translates into an appraisal. However, I don't know if this was conducted or if this was produced by an actual appraiser. I know the signature in here prepared by Nick Tremenker. I know he's not listed with the state as a certified appraiser here in Maine, so I don't know if he's an appraiser or not.
So when you were reviewing the I guess, value assessment from Scarborough Terrace, was there anything in particular that struck you as being inconsistent with what you would see for a property like this?
Well, the analysis included an income approach and a sales analysis. The income approach, I believe, is focused on both the real estate and the going concern. And they used a cap rate of over 14.6%. In their analysis on page 20 in the booklet, I guess they're comparing,
Dave, can you just hold you up for a minute? And you are on tab income approach, or sales analysis?
Right, in the income approach tab, on the page that,
My page is not
20.
numbered, that's all.
page number 20,
It says page 20 at the
It says
bottom.
20 if you flip the page, keep going, just go another page.
Oh, yeah, on the second page, yeah, gotcha.
it appears that they're listing or comparing three minimum, maximum, and average cap rates. And I think they were aiming high with their cap rate. If you look at the average, it's 8.22 near the bottom.
Yep.
And when KRT did their revaluation, they used the cap rate for assisted living facilities at 8.7. And most commercial appraisers will use cap rates somewhere between 8 and 9 typically. So the 14.6 seems way out of line. Now again, that may be because they're including the going concern, but we don't value going concern in assessment. Also, on the last tab, on the sale analysis, if you turn there, you'll see they included 2 sales. And I guess what they were looking for was the price per unit. Sale 1 is also known as Biddeford, I think it's Biddeford Estates, which is an old hospital in Biddeford, built in the 1940s. I have the transfer here. It transferred in June of 2017, but it was a transfer from a parent corporation to a subsidiary, and there's no sale price indicated, unlike the analysis, which indicates a sale price of $5 million. And the assessor in Biddeford confirmed to me today that this is considered a nonprofit. It's tax exempt. So it's not really comparing apples to apples when you compare that to Scarborough Terrace.
So the comparables that you listed out in item 11, you think that you could say that those are probably better comparables than the ones provided by the applicant?
Yes, they are. They're going back to Biddeford Terrace. The assessor also confirmed to me that being an old hospital, when it was discontinued as a hospital and became a nursing home. So you still had like 2 people in one room, 2 people in each room, like a hospital. It was a classic nursing home. And to his understanding, it's still pretty much the same, as opposed to Scarborough Terrace, where the residents have their own apartments. So again, it's really not comparing apples to apples. And I also want to point out, they failed to use the best comparable, which was Atria, right here in Scarborough, which sold in 2017. So,
You have that though, don't you? You had that in yours.
yes. And Atria, I've also got somewhere, I've got the transfer for Atria. That's sold, according to the transfer, it's sold for $21,142,500. And we have it assessed for just over $14 million.
Item number 7 in the assessor's packet.
Thank you.
So in your opinion, would an appraisal of $6 million as requested by the taxpayer be a fair market value or reflect the fair market value of this property?
No, in my opinion, it is not. And I think their analysis falls far short to support that. It's just not a complete appraisal.
Is there anything else you wanted to address the?
One more thing, going back to the property card, I told you what the land assessment was, 916,000 and change for 15 acres. Agency on Aging, as you know, bought a piece of land here on Route 1 next to Holy Donuts, 7.8 acres, and they paid $825,000 for it in 2014. Now that value has gone up since then, but that breaks down in 2014. It breaks down to over $105,000 per acre. The value we have on Scarborough Terrace currently for 15.5 acres breaks down to $59,000 per acre. So I don't think we're being too optimistic with the land value.
I don't think we have.
That's all I have.
Okay. I was remiss a little bit on how the process goes here. So the town states their case. If you have any questions, you certainly can ask them at this point in a moment. And then the board's open to ask any questions of the town. And then you have a chance to present your case, Nick.
Sure.
Town has a right to ask any questions after your presentation, and the board will chime in whenever we feel like we want to chime in. Okay, so that's more or less the process now. So if you have any direct to the town, to Dave, about what he's already said, probably a chance to go now, and
Yeah,
then
sure.
you'll get a chance to present your whole case. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I just had a question about, you said regarding the income approach, you guys did not look at going concern value, meaning, when you took the income, you would not deduct for personal property and business value. I actually disagree with that, because in a way they're kind of, in appraisals for properties like this I've looked at, they do that. Also, I have a couple packets here from the Appraisal Institute, just kind of concerning valuing properties like this, and they talk about it. Basically, if income for a property like this includes a lot of things that say, retail or an industrial property. Basically, in retail industrial, they're getting, the lease money from the tenant. Here, they're making their money through meals, personal services, stuff like that. assessment, you really do have to make a deduction for the business aspect. Because they're getting taxed on the business as it is, so in a way they're kind of getting double dinged. And the same goes for the personal property, they're getting personal property tax. So I would disagree with the assessor on that. I think you would need to make a deduction to the income for business, which should be 25% to standard proportion. And also you need to deduct the value of the personal property. So that is one area I would disagree with the assessor on.
Well, if you're including the going concern and personal property and so on, and you come up with a value of $6 million, if you back out the going concern, personal property, then how much is the real estate worth? Whatever you come up with, you couldn't build it for that.
Well, that's what we kind of are trying to do here, separate the personal property from the business and the personal, and separate the real estate from the business and the personal property. Because that's really what this assessment's for, is the real estate assessment. It should not be intertwined with the business value or the personal property assessment. You really do need to separate it, in my opinion. So, okay.
Okay. Anything else for?
No. It's,
I see that you have something for the board. Is that
yeah,
correct?
again.
Before you pass that on, I
Yeah,
just
sure.
wanted to see if the board has any questions for the town at all so far?
I have one question.
Yeah, please.
Specifically address his concern about personal property. Is personal property included in your assessment?
No, we assess personal property separately.
So in your 8 million plus number assessment is not including personal property?
Correct.
Because he's saying it should be separate and you're saying it is separate.
It is separate, yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing that you said should be separate is
Business
the
income.
business income from
Right.
the meals and the
Yeah, 'cause-
personal service, et
Right,
cetera.
because I'm, basically with the income approach, you're taking the revenue for the facility. And that revenue is coming from several sources, including, meals, spa, whatever, all the services.
So now, I guess I don't understand
Yeah,
how
it's
you can
confusing,
separate those, because that is the function of their purpose. That's the purpose that they're
Mhm.
there for, is to provide meals and take care of these people. So I'm not clear on how you can separate that, but is that included in your assessment?
What's included.
Well, you don't do based on income, so you
No,
do it based,
we basically use the cost approach.
yeah, the cost approach. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I picked up a little bit on that too, and I think it's really unfair to try to think of this in terms of, or to say that the assessor is actually weighing in on the going concern and the business chattel and all of the other, because in the analysis that was used to derive this property value, there has been a review of other like properties that would have similar going interest and business chattel. And I feel like that's already kind of tied up neatly, in that if you're looking at other facilities that are doing the same type of business and would have the same type of assets, and comparing their value and assessing their value and seeing how this relatively compares to that, I think you've already addressed that issue. That's my opinion.
Okay.
But talk to me about
Yeah.
how you would address that.
Yeah, so I think, it's tough to look at sales. They're very noisy. They often depend on what type of services are offered, the revenue. I think when you do look at sales, you would have to make an adjustment for that. I would say about 25-30% to account for that. So say someone paid X, I think you would have to make an adjustment for that downward to give a true real estate value.
Okay.
Because they're kind of selling with.
I think,
Yeah.
we'll get more time to talk about
Yeah.
this after you present it, so
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
going
Sounds
to
good.
wait for that. Thank you.
Nick? Oh, yeah. And for the record, Nick Cloutier is an alternate on this board. He's a non-voting member, to let everyone know. he's certainly, he's fully engaged in all, he just cannot vote at the very end. He's, only 5 members of the board can vote at any given time. Thank you. Go ahead, Nick.
Question about the number of units. You've been saying 60, and you put that in your analysis, but on the building notes of the card, I just wanted to clarify, I saw 68 rooms and 77 beds. Just wanted to clarify that it is exactly 60 units, or what it is.
Yeah, on the back of the property card, in the left-hand column, under units, it says 60.
Okay. So that's the thing you go by, not the building notes, to say
Well,
a bunch of numbers.
You've got some 2-bedroom units.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. All right, Nick, you,
Well, I got
oh,
a small,
I'm sorry, Chris.
to jump on the back of that, actually. What, just so I'm clear, in his analysis, he had Biddeford Estates, but that was different because it's assisted living, because there's 2 bedrooms to a room per se. I am not. But on the back of that, let me say this too, because I think they'll go together, and I think your answer will go together. You have a really good comparable on here of Atria, but we're assessing way below Atria. So that might kind of go together, I don't know, can you compare Atria to Scarborough Terrace?
Atria
No.
is, I believe it's larger, and it's newer.
There's nothing like different about the services they provide or the way they do it that you're aware of that makes a difference in your mind?
No, not
Okay.
that I know of. And that price may have included something else, going concern or whatever, but I don't think so.
If I may make a clarifying point, so the 21 million is the sales price of Atria when it sold in, what year was it, 2015?
No, 2017.
2017. That is based on a real estate transfer tax declaration, and that's a taxable amount of consideration on the real estate. There's going to be a separate allocation for personal property, goodwill, things of that nature. The $21 million is the real estate and the real estate alone.
I was actually looking at the money per unit, 60 compared to 80, and the money per square foot, just how much lower that was. That's what I was looking at for what it's worth. And then the other part of that question was about the Biddeford Estates, where that's an assisted living, and this is, obviously different, but I don't know, maybe it's irrelevant, but you have Scarborough Terrace assisted living in here, and some of them are 2 beds in a unit, the same as Biddeford Estates. Is that more because all of Biddeford Estates are 2 bedrooms in a unit? See what I'm saying? What differentiates?
No, Bedford Estates, as I said, was formerly a hospital, converted to a nursing home. And when it was a hospital, there were 2 patients per room for the most part. And when it converted to a nursing home, it remained that way. There were 2.
So it's just a little hospital room compared to a suite where they happen to have 2 beds. Okay.
And
fair enough.
since then, I think they have an aerial photo in here. Since then, Bedford Estates, I believe, built some townhouses down by the street. But the main building is essentially the same.
I got you. Now it makes sense to me.
The other issue with the Biddeford Estates, as the assessor identified, is we can't locate where they got the $5 million tax transfer because it doesn't seem to be subject to any transfer tax or any real money passed hands in that transfer.
And the nonprofit must make a difference to you too, correct?
They are a 301c3. They are, and according to the assessor in Bedford, they are tax exempt.
Do you know anything about the 99 School Street? Did you look at that one at all?
I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay. And last but
I
not
know
least.
it's fairly new, probably within the past 10, 15 years.
Okay. Last but not least, and it may have said it in there and I just missed it. Why did you abate $1 million, or what, the roughly $1 million actually?
Well, I looked at Atria and kind of compared the two and also some other ones, and I felt that there was room there to reduce the assessment.
All right.
All right, and I guess, which question I guess I had just wanted to answer simply is, Nick, they mentioned that the Biddeford Estates and the transfer tax form was a nonprofit, and it sounds like it certainly wasn't not a arm's length transaction, and your information has a $5 million valuation or sale price, yet there's nothing on the transfer tax declaration according to, you tell us where you came up with that number or where you found that number?
Yeah, we use a service called Reese, which is a commercial real estate
Yeah.
informational
Familiar with
service. And they included that as an arm's length sale as an assisted living facility.
And they included that $5 million number?
Sale price of $5 million per unit of $56,000. Yeah. And they generally do a pretty good job of verifying all their
Yep.
information.
That's just a bit odd if the paperwork from the state, which relies on its tax base, right, says, doesn't put a value on it, right? That's what you're saying, right? And then Reese does? Will you have that information for us? The Reese valuation of that?
I do. It's in the last tab, or it should be the last, or maybe it's the second last tab for sales. Or the other tab.
Oh, benefit states here? No, I know it's written in your report. I just wanted some verification. And we have a state form that says no. And I wanted to see what you had to confirm that with us.
All I have is the Reese information.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one other thing that the assessor mentioned, are you a licensed appraiser in the state of Maine?
Not in the state of Maine, no.
In what state?
I have previously been a licensed appraiser in Connecticut.
And are you currently licensed in Connecticut?
No.
So you're not licensed by any state at this point?
That's correct. I mean, we do specifically state in the letter that should not be treated as an appraisal. So I'm not trying to be deceitful or anything.
No, I'm not saying you want, I just want to clear for
Okay,
the
yeah, no,
record
no,
whether you are licensed or aren't licensed or
Right.
have been licensed or whatever. We need to know that.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Anybody else?
One question, is there an opportunity that that sale of $5 million was actually business and not real estate? Meaning why transfer tax wouldn't actually have come to the surface?
I don't know. Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
There is a note on the second page of the Reese sales comparison for that property at the bottom. It has financing details, and it said Camden National Bank provided a $4 million loan.
Which ironically is 80% of their.
Yes, which is what they would contribute on
I noticed that too.
a commercial loan. They would only do 80%.
Yeah.
So it kind of substantiates the $5 million
Yeah,
possibility there.
but it's hard to say how much of that was real estate versus.
Right.
Total business asset.
Right. I don't know, right? Could be non-real estate related, right? Okay.
Any question?
Go ahead.
Where was the assessor, or, yeah, where's the cap rate, the 14% cap rate? Was that on page 20 there? I'm seeing,
That was on,
That is behind the sales approach tab. It's at page 20 at the bottom, but it's probably 1, 2, 3 pages behind the tab. It's a table and with a red outline. The top of it says realtyrates.com investment survey, 3rd quarter 2018.
Oh, yeah, I'm picking up.
We've noted that they are using the maximum table of 12.99% cap rate versus a 8.22, which appears to be the average, and also the recommended cap rates by KTI.
Oh, it's,
You have to go to the actual written text in the first section before the first tab.
okay, because I wasn't seeing it on page 20. Okay.
Now, if you go here where it talks about the 12.99, then
Yeah.
they talk about what they've added to get
Okay.
the
And
14.
it's right in this, here,
Oh, yeah,
the loaded cap rate.
thank you. Is the other question is Bedford Estates, is that the former Weber Hospital?
Okay. There'll be ample opportunity to ask more questions at this point, but Nick, now it's your chance to present your case.
Thank you.
And you have some handouts for the board?
Yeah,
First of all, do you have enough for the board?
no.
No. Okay.
It's,
It's kind of gonna be an issue, but we'll
okay.
try to.
It's not pertinent, it's just kind of some additional background or
Okay.
information about going concern theories.
Well, we've got a couple, you got a choice to make then. You
Okay.
can, normally we try to get all the material 14 days in advance, but I'm certainly not a stickler on that. If you have enough to present to the board, that's fine. And you need to present it to the town as well. They need to look at it, and I don't mind doing that either. But since you don't have enough for the board and the town, we could stop and you could copy that, I suppose, that's one of the things. Or you could, I don't know what else you could do. You could just talk about what's in there, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll just talk about it, I don't want to keep everyone here.
Summarize it.
You could summarize it, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
so it's your choice. But
Sure,
I mean,
I'll do that. Basically, this is a presentation from the Appraisal Institute. It talks about making the deductions for the business when dealing with properties such as the subject and the assisted living facility, making the deductions from the revenue of personal property and business value for reasons that I've touched on. But yeah, no, I don't want to keep everyone here all night, so sorry about that. I guess I'll start the regular presentation.
that'd be great. I just can't put that into
no,
the,
I understand.
into the record because
I
we're not
apologize.
prepared for it. Okay.
Sounds good.
And it's not fair to the assessors, not have it ahead of time as
Yep.
well. Okay.
Sounds good. Well, the assistant did a good job of kind of describing the property, so I'll skip all that. As he mentioned, the assessment's $8,649,800, and that's based on the reassessment in 2018. The previous assessment was $3,746,600. That's about an increase of 231%. Pretty big. And I think the most applicable way, as I stated, to look at the value of the property such as this one is the income approach. You know, I do have, you know, the bill for estate sale, and I talk about some assessment comps, but I really think that's secondary when looking at value of property such as this one. So I'll start with the income, and basically the 2018 value, that's based, it should be based on the year-end 2017 financials. So we took the actual financials, you know, it's not a pro forma, we took the actual income and expenses from that year. And we also included reserves, we added that, 715 unit. So basically, for 2017, the revenue was about $4.2 million. Total expenses with the added reserves, about $2.9 million. Comes out to an NOI before the real estate tax of about 1.3. We did use a real estate, a base cap rate of 12.99, and it is really tough to estimate a cap rate. It could be a little high here. We do, I use 12.99 because we also review this company's other properties in Vermont, and that's what the assessor for that jurisdiction uses as a cap rate. And these are pretty similar properties, so I thought it was kind of reasonable to use that in this instance as well. And then we added the effective tax rate of 1.649%, and that got to the overall rate of 14.639%. So that got us to a value of 8,863,713. That's before deducting for the business income, which is 25. We deducted 25%, which is industry standard for going concern, and we deducted personal property of 436,300, which is that's what personal property is assessed at. So I didn't think there was any better way to value personal property here. So after those deductions, got us to a value of about $6.2 million. I also looked at the financials from 2016. They're very similar from 2017. Using the same parameters, that got to a value of $6.2 million as well. So the income over those 2 years was pretty stable, I thought.
You should keep it in. You should keep the door open, actually.
Should we?
Main law.
Okay.
Open door.
Oh, really? My bad.
I almost closed it twice, so.
Well, it's got glass, so.
I did ask them to quiet down though, too, so.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, sure, no problem. And then we did look at the sales. I thought Middleford Estates, that was a pretty comparable one, about 9 miles from the subject. 89 units for that one. That sold 2017 for $56,000 a unit. I think the subject is a superior property, but just kind of looking at 56,000, significantly lower than what the subject's assessed at. But again, you probably would need to make some upward adjustment for that. And lastly, looked at some of the assessment comparables in town. I thought Pine Point Center, that's 67 Pine Point Road. It's an older facility, built in '59 with a effective year built 1996. That one's assessed at $44,900 a unit. And then Atria, I did look at that one. That's a much more modern facility, built in 2013. That one's assessed at $174 a unit. And I think the assessment comparables, it doesn't really, you can look at it, but it doesn't really tell the story of the market value because it doesn't, there's no willing buyer, there's no seller. But, it is something you could look at. Considering all that information, I thought the value should be about $6 million. And again, that is still a significant increase from the previous value of about 3.7. I do think the 230 or so percent increase from 2017 to 2018 is excessive, but I still bumped it up to $6 million. I thought that's a pretty reasonable value for the subject.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
That's all.
Let's have the discussion weigh in. Any cross here?
Just a minor thing, Pine Point Road, that's not comparing apples to apples. That's a nursing home. It's not an assisted living facility.
What's the difference, just so for our edification? I don't.
Well, assisted living, like Atria, for example, people live independently. They have their own apartments. The nursing home, like the one in Bedford, you may have 2 patients per room who are, it's almost, not like being in a hospital, but pretty close.
They don't have, do they have a bathroom in there? Do they have a kitchenette?
They probably, I don't think they have a kitchenette, no.
Okay, so that's, yeah, that's pretty.
They probably have a bathroom, which a lot of hospital rooms have. But there is a difference.
The only question I would report is, in your, when you were reviewing this, did you identify any properties that were actually used an income base versus a cost base assessment? Any towns that use that assessment for tax purposes or on an income base versus a cost base?
You're saying, I'm just trying to make sure I understand the question. You're saying what, have other towns value assisted living?
I was asking if the ones that you identified, were they appraised versus on an income-based assessment versus a cost-based assessment as Scarborough does?
For the assessment
Comparables? Correct.
I'm not sure, but they're within this town, so I would assume it's similar enough value.
Cost-based.
Yeah.
What about the other two you used, the Biddeford and the Gorham? Do you know that? It's a valid question. They are different towns.
Right.
You might even know that. Does anybody know
Well, that's more the sale price. It's not the assessment. I didn't look at the
Okay,
assessments
fair
for
enough.
those, so.
Makes sense. Okay. Good point.
You have a question?
I had 2 questions. Well, one for Nick.
Yeah.
So in your letter, you asked for 6 million, yet everything you've presented comes to 6.2. I just wanted to point that out, that you just dropped that 200,000.
I will, yeah, so I thought since the Biddeford Estate sale was so much lower, I thought, as I said, primarily we looked at the income, but the sales suggested a lower value, so
Okay. And
that's why I
for
took
the
that.
assessor, how many years has it been since this property has been reassessed?
I would say at least 2005. It may have been assessed at the same value longer than that. I didn't look into that.
Well, I
2005
question the
is the last.
percentage increase being a relevant factor at all, because if you go 10, 15 years without reassessing something, the market is so vastly changed. Prices for everything have gone up. Even if you took a value of anything 15 years ago and did cost of living, it would have gone up substantially. So I don't know that the percentage of the increase is really relevant to the discussion. It's not what it was to what it is from one year to the next. It's what it was back in 10, 15 years ago to what it is now, bringing it forward all those years. So is it realistic for today's market? Not how much was it the year before that. So I don't see that there's a value in that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good point. I'm wondering what it was reassessed at, and if the values increased over that time or stayed the same. I'm not sure.
Well, if we didn't do a reassessment, we just never changed the books because we didn't do a reassessment. But that doesn't, so, I mean, you could look at it, you could get a bargain for 15 years, and now it's going up to catch up to where it should have been.
Right. The assessments weren't raised or increased every year.
No.
Since the last reval, which was 2005. Many properties, both residential and commercial, here in Scarborough, stayed at the same assessment from 2005 until last year or this year. And some,
Yeah, they just stayed the
some
same.
went even further back, with the same assessment.
So you're saying it's been static for 14 years or so,
Assessments have been-
and it may have been longer than that prior to it might have been reassessed at the same value back in 2004. What I'm saying, it might have been,
Yeah, okay.
I do want to question that though, because I'm looking at the tax card and I'm seeing that there was the assessment history says 2016 was when it happened, the 3.7466. And so I'm just wondering, was that just a carryover value?
2016, the assessment was 3.7466. In 2017, it was the same. And if you go into the,
I'm just wondering how far back that goes, if we, do we have any?
probably 2005.
That's how that would read though, right?
Right.
Going all the way back, they would just be a carryover, right? So I just
Unless
wanted-
they added something
Yeah,
at
No, I
some
just
point,
wanted to
and
address that.
they just added the value of that. But I also want to point out, with the aging population, these facilities have become more popular and more profitable. So whether you consider the income or not, they have gone up in value.
Does this mean that they haven't visited the site since 2005?
Well, 2018 is when we,
Did the statement?
right.
So I'd like to point out too that there hasn't been any site visits by code enforcement since the construction of the facility. So there's been no reason for a reevaluation.
Thank you.
Hey, Nick, did you go through, I tend to like their comparisons, the comps they use, that the city used. Did you go through those at all, and do you have any information that you would add? Is there anything they're missing that you know of, any?
Not to my knowledge, no. I mean, I did touch on a couple of them in my analysis, the Atria and Five Point.
Yeah.
So, Nick,
Yeah.
Jen, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Couple of questions. You referenced the fact that you were an appraiser in Connecticut before. What level of appraiser were you? What type of appraiser were you?
I was provisional, which is basically,
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so that was one question. I had a question, I also question why, if you're kind of appealing a value, if you're trying to question a value, why would you not actually pay for an appraisal to be done on the property? Or why would they not? Why would they not look for a true use path appraisal that was, that really could substantiate what you're claiming, as far as being more valid, from a general appraiser?
yeah, I mean, I guess, that stuff costs money, several $1,000s.
But wouldn't you spend $7,000 to potentially save quite a bit, a big chunk?
Well, it's not required, I mean.
No, but I mean, it just would, from my perspective, I would have liked to have seen something more valid than you've got an income approach and a sales approach, but no cost approach. There's no effective date to the report as far as, what the value was on it, which typically you would find in under use path. So I'm just kind of curious as to why that's kind of been skirted instead of,
Yeah.
Typically that would be what
Right.
you would see to justify a
Yeah,
change.
so I don't work for Scarborough Terrace. They hired my company to review the property taxes of their several properties.
Okay.
And so that's kind of my role, is to, act on behalf of the taxpayer and put together an analysis.
Okay.
And if it comes to the point where we do have to, down the line, if we do get an appraisal, that's absolutely, what would happen, so. But at this point, it's not, required.
Makes sense.
Matt?
I've got a question for the assessor. In your experience in the last year, have you had any properties that have increased by 231% on a reevaluation?
I'd only be guessing to say yes. Some have increased significantly as a result of the reval. I don't know how high the increase has gone with any particular property.
again, as we discussed earlier, some of these properties haven't been visited since 2005. So you're talking when this facility was constructed in 2005, when the appraisal was done, or the assessment was done then, the city hasn't taken a look at that property until the reassessment last year. So you're talking over 10 years in some cases of property value change as of this instance.
All right.
I wondered why Bessie Commons wasn't brought in as a comparable, because aren't they pretty close to the same type of facility as Scarborough Terrace?
You probably should be asking him, because I didn't do an appraisal. I just did a simple comparison.
But
Similar
when you
properties.
compared properties and you did Atria, I just wondered why you didn't do Bessie Commons. Because as far as I'm concerned, I believe that Bessie Commons is almost identical in what their purpose or structure is as Scarborough Terrace.
Well, I thought Atria was pretty common, pretty similar in terms of the purpose, the mission, and the type of facility that it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I just think Bessie and Atria are very similar in themselves. Yeah, so because I know Bessie went up quite a bit.
But we don't have any
But we don't have
information
any
on Betsy. right
numbers
now,
on
we
it, so I just wondered why you didn't use them, if there was a particular reason. No, okay.
Nick, you want to tell me what your definition of the fully loaded cap rate is?
Yeah, so, are you familiar with just like a regular cap rate, like a base cap rate? Okay, so the fully loaded cap rate, it kind of takes the, okay, I'm trying to explain it. Basically, you're not including taxes in the expenses, even though the taxpayer is obviously paying tax, it's an expense to them. But since if the property is overassessed, that would be an inflated number in the expenses. So you're kind of adding on the back end with you're adding the effective tax rate for the town to the base cap rate, and that kind of offsets not putting taxes in the expenses when you do the pro forma. And you're kind of adding that expense in the back end to reflect the lowest theoretical value or assessment.
But any cap rate, normal cap rate, doesn't include the taxes and the expenses. It just takes the income minus the expenses with NOI and factoring some sort of capitalization rate, right? You've taken that and then you've added the taxes back in with a 1.649 effective tax rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get your 14.63. So you've actually included the taxes in, you just did it backdoor, right? You did include whatever taxes that are paid in here through an increase in your cap rate.
Yes.
Correct?
I did not, but as you can see, I did not include taxes, real estate taxes in the expenses.
No, but you did by adding 1.649% into your regular cap rate, right? Isn't that the effective tax rate?
That's correct, yep.
Right,
So you're asking why I did that?
right, is that what you're saying? Hey, that's the fully loaded tax, so you added your taxes back in. You didn't take them a dollar-wise, you didn't say $82,000, whatever it is, to get down to a lower NOI, but you
Yeah.
got to a higher cap rate, which is effectively working it the other way around, correct?
Right. So if we just took the taxes from 2017, it would have been based on the old value. So that theoretically, that would have nothing to do with the value we're trying to reach, which is the present value, or
What you believe the value is today.
Correct. Yeah, and so basically, the way I did it, by adding the 1.649 to the base cap rate, that kind of takes care of that. It's kind of, sorry, it's kind of hard to explain.
No, it's all right, I just,
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I'm there already. Any other questions? No? Okay. I think we, do we get the chance to summarize? No.
It's not required, but
Okay.
you can offer that.
Yep. Yeah, why don't I do that? Just if you want to make a summary statement, you can. No, we're all set?
We'll contact.
I'm all set.
The same thing, okay. So right now, why don't we just take a few minutes, I'll adjourn for a few minutes for a break, all right? About 10 minutes, 5 minutes? What's your like? 5 minutes, let's join for 5 minutes, just to take a bathroom break if anyone wants to go, and then we'll rejoin. Thank you. What's that, Chris?
I am, thank you, sorry.
All right, all right, we, now we'll reconvene the Board of Assessment meeting for Scarborough Terrace. And so at this point, since both parties have presented their case, we now, it's a chance to kind of get the board's feeling here, kind of get a consensus where if anybody wants to weigh in here. And how we normally do this in the past is we, depending on the individual case and the length of it, is we'll usually, we can, if we need to defer it, we will. If we need to have other meetings. But what we'll do today is just to get a feel for where the board sits on this. And if we have some sort of consensus, then what we can do is we'll take a preliminary vote. The preliminary vote will be based on the finding of fact that's put together by us and given to Durwood's office, the council. Then they would put together their finding of facts in a memorandum form. We would schedule another meeting, Tracy, to consider that, and then we would have the formal vote on we would take that finding of fact, that the information that we gave Durwood's office, then we would go through that, tweak it as best we feel is appropriate, because he might not quite understand what we want and our thoughts. And once we do that, then we will tweak that at a meeting, and then we will do a final vote on that. All right, so that's the process here. And having said all that long-windedly, does anybody have any thoughts? I want to start this discussion off here. Marjorie.
I didn't find that Scarborough Terrace met the burden of proof to show that a lower assessment is warranted.
All right. Thank you very much, Marjorie. Anybody else?
I feel the exact same way. I think, I'm looking at the standards of proof and the burden being on the taxpayer to prove that the assessor was basically the three standards being the judgment of the assessor being so irrational or unreasonable that the circumstances of the property was substantially overvalued. I don't think that can apply. There was no unjust discrimination that I can see. In fact, the assessor went out of his way to actually review and reassess last year and make a determination in favor of the taxpayer. Or that the assessment was fraudulent, dishonest, or illegal. That doesn't apply here either. So without having one of those three prongs, without one of those three criteria applying, I don't feel that we can actually proceed with making any kind of determination that in the taxpayer's favor. I think we have to, I stand by the assessment's value, the assessor's value of the property.
Okay, thank you. Chris, any thoughts?
To go a little different direction with that, I liked your comps. I thought you did a good job with that. That made sense to me. And when I was looking at your comps, he had a couple of comparables. He had a couple of notes on that kind of took one of them out play for me in my mind a little bit. And it's on the owner to show the burden of proof, to turn that over. And I think those are good comps, so that works for me, that makes sense. I can justify why you did what you did and how you did it.
Thank you, Chris. Matt, any, sorry, go ahead.
I think the city did a nice job with their presentation. The information was accurate to the point. I think the information you provided was reasonable, a little light. I think with a full-blown appraisal in your hand, I think could have had the value been where you hoped it could have been, I think could have been a bit of a driving force. But I would have to lean more towards with the city's assessment at this time.
And Nick?
I agree with some of the same sentiments that I think the burden of proof is on the taxpayer, and I don't think it was met, some things that maybe haven't been said directly, but indirectly, with the appraisal. I think I had some trouble following the reasoning behind the cap rate and being so different than the norm used in an appraisal that I've usually seen. And the backdoor of adding taxes and whatnot didn't seem to compute to me. Also, there was no mention of cost approach, and that is what the majority of, assessors do consider. They have to consider all, but it wasn't mentioned in the appraisal.
Thank you. And I guess I'll just weigh in for the record. I too feel that the taxpayer hasn't reached the burden of proof to overrule the town here in the assessors. I think clearly it's, I didn't see enough information, or certainly in the sales or income, to meet that burden. I think Matt said light. I think that's kind. I think there wasn't enough there. Certainly having a lot of properties out there, more than two, and one was questionable. I think with, we don't know, not enough information was put in to determine whether that's an arm's length or not. And clearly, I think if an appraisal would have been warranted. I think it was important to have an appraisal here to give us the information. If you want to make your case solid, we need more information than that. And so, having said that, I think we've reached.
I want to piggyback one more comment on that. I think when I see the absence of an appraisal, it tells me either that you couldn't, you didn't feel that your case was strong enough to actually go and get the actual numbers, or you got the actual numbers and they didn't match up with what you wanted. That's kind of my initial gut reaction to the absence of an appraisal in a circumstance like this, where there's a lot of money involved. There's a big discrepancy between the evaluation and the assessed value and what you're accusing for value. And I might have been able to overlook that had you had the credentials of a general appraiser. But that not being the case, which is why I inquired about your background in that. So I appreciate that you were honest with that.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if we needed to take that individual vote now, do we?
No, I think Mr. Chairman, I think I've got a feel for where the board is coming from. Under the board's rules, as you know, you're able to delegate to a third party, like the attorney, the ability to write findings. As I've said before, what I would present would be what I heard to be a kind of summary of the statements, but I encourage you strongly to review them carefully and tear them apart and put your own personality into those findings. They're mainly a discussion piece, so I could have that several days in advance of whenever Tracy tells us the meeting might be able to be held and everyone's available.
Do you want us to give you more?
No, I think I got what I need.
Okay.
I think I got enough information, but that night I could then, of course, we could further refine it, and then what happens is the chairman is authorized to sign the final.
So I think first, so as we direct Durwood to put these together, these findings of facts, okay? And we will, I think the next course of business is to schedule this meeting to finalize this vote and review the finding of facts, then finalize the vote on that.
The applicant doesn't have to be there, that's a question. Of course, you're welcome, it's an open meeting, but you don't have to be. Sometimes that's
The next meeting. So Tracy, why don't we go to you and figure out when we can meet next?
How about next Monday, the 16th?
1-5?
Wednesday at 6 o'clock?
I can do the 16th.
The 16th?
Yep.
And if we have to, it'll be quick, so.
It won't be a long meeting.
We can change the time, too.
Something could be early, although I think we have some issues with the time.
I couldn't do it at 6. I could do it at 7, but I can't do it at 6.
7 would be better for me too.
Is there another day that week or not?
Not that week, no.
Okay. Sooner the better then, right, guys, gals?
I'm fine with the 16th. I'm flying back from Florida that day, so assuming I don't have any flight issues, I'm fine.
We've never had any flight issues, there's never any problems with that.
Luckily, my flight's at 5
Let me
a.m.
tell you about my experience playing trains and automobiles. Okay, why don't we plan on, we plan on the 16th at 7 PM?
Yep.
And what if I can't make it? That'd be tough. We still have a
Gerwood?
quorum, right?
Well, we still have a.
We still have a, we
We still
still
have
have,
an
Quorum,
alternate.
so if
Yeah.
I, if I absolutely couldn't, it wouldn't.
Yeah, no.
we still have a quorum, because there's 5 of us here, 4 of
Everything's
them, we need
noted,
3 for a quorum.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
All right, so 7 PM, everyone, on the 16th, which is a Monday.
Week from today.
Tracy,
Yep,
book it.
we're
All
on it.
right, all right. Okay. Having done that, we'll, and
Motion to
we
adjourn.
don't, we can do at the next meeting to vote on giving the discretion to sign and change anything.
Yes, we'll do that next time.
All right, haven't heard anything else. We, no other business to come before this panel?
Motion we adjourn?
I do have a second?
Second.
Second. I want to thank everybody. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
See you around.
Nick, thank you, Dave, and Dave.